Welcome to today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We are looking at a really fascinating set of notes and psychological research today, all centered around this idea of rewriting the inner critic.
Yeah, it's such a universal experience, really.
It totally is. And our mission today is actually twofold. First, we're going to try to figure out why we are so incredibly hard on ourselves in the dark, like the actual mechanics of that late night self-judgment.
Right, that 2 a.m. panic everyone gets.
Exactly. But second, and I think this is just as important, we're treating this as a dual exploration. The source material we're using is specifically designed for English learners.
Which is such a cool approach, honestly.
Right. So we're going to equip you, the listener, with some very specific, soothing English vocabulary and phrases. We want to give you the actual language to articulate your inner world.
Yeah, to sort of turn that internal harshness into, well, a gentle goodnight.
And because of that mission, we're going to take our time today. We're going to keep a calm, accessible pace. We want to explore the psychology, sure, but also just the texture of the words themselves.
Right. We really want to create a calm space for you to process this information.
So, to set the stage for why this is so necessary, I want you to think about a medical diagnosis.
Yeah.
Usually, when we talk about medicine, there's this expectation of absolute precision.
Yeah, totally. It's very binary.
Yeah, it's like engineering. You break your arm, the x-ray shows a jagged white line, and the doctor just points to it. It's broken or it's not broken. Clean, visible, categorized.
And, you know, the human brain really prefers that kind of visual confirmation. It feels safe when a problem can be pointed to and just isolated on a light board.
But the second you step into the world of psychology and our internal dialogue, that x-ray machine is completely useless.
Oh, complete.
We're looking at a landscape that is murky, unpredictable, and frankly, a little hostile. So picture this scenario. And I know you listening right now have absolutely experienced this.
I think we all have, yeah.
You've had a remarkably long, exhausting day. You're finally in your cozy bed, the lights are off, you close your eyes, and just as you are about to drift into sleep.
The courtroom opens.
Yes, your brain opens a courtroom. Suddenly, you are on trial for literally everything you did wrong that day.
It functions as a complete psychological ambush.
It really does. Every awkward pause in a conversation, every slightly misphrased email, every time you stumbled over your words, you're suddenly subjected to this mental highlight reel of your clumsiest moments.
Yeah, and the psychological concept we're unpacking here is known as the inner critic. It's that voice banging the gavel in that late-night mental courtroom.
So to stop this trial, we kind of have to look closely at who's actually sitting in the judge's chair.
Exactly. Because this critic doesn't just materialize out of thin air. The research shows it's an internalization.
Meaning it comes from outside originally.
Yeah, it's a composite character built over years. It's often made up of picky childhood authority figures like demanding parents or highly critical teachers. And then that gets blended together with the really intense competitive standards of modern society.
I want to pause on that word internalization, because I think it's crucial for understanding the mechanics here.
Go for it.
As children, our survival literally depends on our caregivers. We need their approval for food, shelter, safety. So if a caregiver is highly critical, the child's brain does something incredibly clever, but ultimately really damaging.
It adopts the voice.
Right. It adopts that critical voice as its own. The brain internalizes the harshness to preemptively correct behavior before the caregiver can even get angry. It's a childhood survival mechanism.
But the tragedy is that we carry this outdated survival mechanism into adulthood. It outlives its usefulness.
Yeah, it just sticks around.
And we keep this resident critic around through a process the sources call self-flagellation.
Ooh, that's a big word. Let's break that down for our English learners.
Right. So self-flagellation is a very heavy, intense term. Literally, it means the act of whipping or beating oneself as a form of religious discipline. But emotionally and psychologically, it describes the act of punishing yourself with really harsh thoughts.
We hold on to this bizarre illusion that emotional self-flagellation is basically mandatory for success.
Yeah, we really do.
We convince ourselves that subjecting our minds to harsh scrutiny, which is another key vocabulary phrase from our notes, meaning a very close, punishing examination of our flaws, is the only way to maintain our edge.
Like if we aren't mean to ourselves, we'll just fail.
Exactly. We think if we are not relentlessly hard on ourselves, we'll become lazy or we'll fail completely.
But the danger highlighted in the sources is that this harsh scrutiny is absolutely not productive motivation. The text actually refers to it as internal erosion.
Internal erosion. Wow.
Yeah, instead of building a stronger house, you are slowly pouring acid on the foundation. It systematically destroys your underlying sense of security and confidence over time.
You know, the double standard is what always baffles me. I think about how I treat my friends versus how I treat myself.
Oh, it's night and day, isn't it?
It really is. If my friend made a terrible joke in a meeting and felt bad about it, I would immediately offer comfort. I would say, forget it. Nobody cares. They probably weren't even listening.
Yeah, you'd be totally supportive.
But the second the lights go out, I become my own worst enemy over the exact same minor infraction. I kind of theorize that it comes down to objective distance.
How so?
Well, with a friend, I see their entire identity. I see their kindness, their humor, their history. I see the whole person outside of that one clumsy moment. But with myself, that objective distance just vanishes.
And that loss of distance is the core issue. The inner critic operates by attaching your entire identity to the mistake.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. When a friend fails, they made an error. When you fail, the critic convinces you that you are the error. We use that relentless self-punishment because we mistakenly believe we have to be perfect to justify even taking up space in the world.
So, to dismantle this, the notes heavily emphasize the power of articulation.
Having the right words.
Yes. For you listening, having the exact English vocabulary to describe this heavy, abstract feeling is actually your first line of defense. We have 2 specific late-night healing phrases to practice.
I love these.
When you are lying in bed and the mental trial begins, you can say to yourself, "My inner critic is loud and relentless tonight."
Let's look really closely at that word relentless. It means unyielding, continuous, refusing to stop or soften.
It's a great descriptive word.
It is, and by framing the sentence this way, my inner critic is loud, you are actually creating separation. You are identifying the critic as a phenomenon happening to you, rather than a fundamental truth about who you are.
The second healing phrase for the sources captures the honesty of the moment perfectly, I think. You say, "I am being my own worst enemy in the dark."
There is such a profound relief in just admitting the reality of the situation,
Yeah, you're not fighting the anxiety. You're just observing your own behavior. You're putting a name to that invisible courtroom.
Because identifying the prosecutor brings that subconscious habit right into the conscious light. And once you can name the harsh scrutiny, you're ready to pivot.
Right. Which brings us to the next phase of the source material. How do we make the trial stop? And it requires a completely different approach than what most of us usually try.
Definitely.
My instinct, when my brain is attacking me at 2 a.m., is to fight back. I want to yell at my own thoughts to just shut up.
Which usually just makes it louder.
Exactly. But the notes suggest this profound alternative. Don't fight the voice in anger. Instead, become your own soul translator.
A soul translator, that represents a complete paradigm shift. It means moving away from self-flagellation and consciously choosing self-compassion.
We're replacing the judging prosecutor with an inner ally.
And for our English learners, an ally is a trusted partner. It's someone who fights on your side and offers unconditional support.
The core realization here, like the absolute anchor of this deep dive, is a phrase from the notes that I think everyone needs to memorize. It says, "What you need tonight is comfort, not an improvement report."
That is so true. The middle of the night, when your resources are totally depleted and the lights are out, is literally never the time for actionable feedback.
No, it's really not.
Yeah.
Let's apply this translation filter to some real-world examples from the sources. We'll look at how the inner critic's harsh output can be translated by the inner ally.
Okay, let's do it.
Suppose your inner critic says, "You messed up the presentation today. You are a failure."
Ouch. Yeah. So the soul translator takes the core event, the presentation, but entirely changes the interpretation. The translated English phrase is, "It was a hard try, not perfect, but I see your courage. You did your best."
I see your courage. I love that.
Right. The phrasing centers the effort rather than the outcome. It acknowledges the reality of the imperfection, but offers immediate grace for the attempt.
Another common late-night scenario from the text is the comparison trap. The critic says, "Look at everyone else's success. You are so far behind."
That one hits hard. But the translation filter steps in and offers this really beautiful reframe. Every flower has its season. I am growing safely in my own time zone. I am enough.
And for our listeners, the word reframe is a vital psychological tool to know.
It really is.
Think of a picture frame holding a photograph. The photograph which represents the facts of your life, remains exactly the same. Reframing means putting a different frame around that picture to change how the image is perceived.
I love that analogy, and the phrase growing safely in my own time zone is particularly effective because it neutralizes the panic of comparison.
Yeah, it removes the arbitrary deadlines society imposes.
Exactly, and replaces them with a biological natural pace. Let's look at one more example. The critic whispers, "You said the wrong thing at dinner, people secretly hate you."
Ugh, the worst. But the inner ally applies a heavy dose of reality mixed with a nurturing tone. The translation is, everyone is tired, no one is looking at you with a magnifying glass. Breathe, we are safe tonight.
A nurturing tone is key there. It's the voice a caring parent uses with a frightened child. It's soothing, protective, and designed to completely de-escalate fear.
The analogy that keeps coming to my mind with all this is going into the language settings on your smartphone.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, the hardware is identical. It's still your brain, your memories, your day, but you are going into the menu and switching the default audio output from harsh scrutiny to nurturing tone. You're literally rewiring how the events of the day are read back to you.
Changing the operating system is a really powerful way to visualize the goal. The challenge, however, lies in the execution during moments of high stress.
And that is exactly where I have to push back on this concept just a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
I admit I am somewhat skeptical about how easy this is in practice. I mean, the theory of the soul translator sounds beautiful, but when the feeling of embarrassment or the hot flush of failure is still fresh and loud and physically tight in your chest, how do you just switch to a nurturing tone?
It's really hard.
When you feel terrible, forcing a positive reframe almost feels like lying to yourself.
Well, you are hitting on the central limitation of cognitive behavioral tools. You cannot logic your way out of a nervous system response.
Right.
When that hot flush of failure hits, your body is in a state of high physiological arousal. Your heart rate is up, your muscles are tense. Attempting to translate thoughts while your body genuinely believes it is in physical danger is incredibly difficult.
So what do we do?
This is exactly why self-compassion can't just be a fleeting thought. It has to be a deliberate practice choice.
Which highlights the importance of having prepared, practiced English phrases ready to deploy. When you are totally exhausted, you do not have the cognitive energy to invent a nurturing tone from scratch.
No, you rely on the scripts you've memorized.
Right. And the notes provide two vital phrases for this exact moment. The first is, I choose self-compassion over self-criticism.
And notice the verb there. The verb choose restores agency. You are no longer just a passive victim sitting in the defendant's chair. You are the executive making a decision about how the mental courtroom will operate.
The second phrase is really simple but deeply restorative. I am worthy of love, especially from myself.
That's powerful.
We spend so much time outsourcing our worthiness, We wait for a boss to give us a good performance review or a partner to validate our attractiveness. This phrase pulls all that power right back into your own hands. You become the source of your own validation.
So we have established the vocabulary, and we understand the theory of the inner ally. But like we discussed regarding the nervous system, you can't just logic your way out of a physiological response.
We need something physical.
Exactly. It requires moving from cognitive understanding to an embodied practice. And the sources outline a very specific practical routine for this. They call it the 3-step inner armistice ritual.
Before we walk through those steps, let's look at the word armistice. For our English learners, an armistice is not just a casual pause or a short break.
No, it has a lot of weight to it.
It's a formal, official agreement between opposing sides to completely stop fighting. It is the end of a war. That is the magnitude of what we are trying to achieve in our minds tonight.
It's a great word for this.
So, to set the scene for this ritual, I want you listening to imagine the crackle of a fireplace. There is a lazy, dim, warm light in the room. And underneath it all, imagine a deep, low-frequency, lo-fi beat, like a steady, calming, rhythmic pulse.
That is the physical energy required for the ritual. So step 1 of the inner armistice ritual is to acknowledge the critic.
Okay, how do we do that?
You're lying in bed, you take a deep breath, and the counterintuitive instruction here is to completely drop your resistance. When the voice says you failed today, you don't argue. You simply say, I hear you, thank you for trying to protect me, but the court is adjourned for tonight.
The court is adjourned. I just want to savor that phrase for a second. Adjourned is a legal term, meaning to suspend or close a meeting. By saying this, you are physically slamming the gavel in your own mind and sending the jury home. You are establishing a firm boundary. You are acknowledging that the critic is just a misguided defense mechanism trying to keep you safe from social rejection. You thank it for its service and then formally dismiss it.
Which leads right into step 2, which bridges the gap between the mind and the body. Step 2 is translate with love.
Okay.
The notes instruct you to physically place a hand over the center of your chest, feel the physical warmth, and manually translate the harsh thought. So you translate, "You messed up," into "You survived today. That is amazing." And the crucial instruction here is to actively feel your chest soften with your exhale.
To soften means to release that rigid, tight feeling in your muscles. But I really want to dig into the mechanics of this because I am fascinated by why the physical act of touching your own chest makes the brain accept the armistice.
It's actually pretty amazing.
It feels like there must be a biological mechanism at play here rather than just a nice psychological metaphor.
Oh, the biology is entirely responsible for the shift. Placing a warm hand on the center of your chest stimulates the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve, right?
Yeah, this nerve is basically the primary superhighway of the parasympathetic nervous system. That's what controls your body's rest and digest functions. When you are trapped in late-night self-flagellation, your amygdala, which is the brain's fear center, is firing. Your body is stuck in a fight-or-flight state.
So your brain genuinely believes a predator is in the room, even if the predator is just the memory of like an embarrassing typo in an email.
Exactly. The brain cannot distinguish between physical danger and social danger. By placing your hand on your chest and consciously softening your muscles, you are sending a massive biological override signal straight down the vagus nerve.
Oh.
The message is simply, we are physically safe. The brain literally cannot maintain a state of panic if the physical body is entirely relaxed and receiving soothing touch. The physical softness acts as a Trojan horse, allowing the mental armistice to bypass the fear center and actually take hold.
That is incredible. The body literally leads the brain to peace.
It does.
Which brings us to the final step of the ritual. Step 3. Sign the armistice.
This is the culmination of the whole practice. You release every ounce of remaining muscle tension in your jaw, your shoulders, and your hands. The notes describe this as declaring a supreme reconciliation with yourself.
The imagery used in the source material for this final step is stunning. It asks you to imagine yourself inside a sterile sanctuary. You're acting as a wounded but gently bandaged animal who does not need to prove their value to anyone in the forest.
You just get to exist in the quiet.
Exactly. You do not have to earn your rest through perfection. You simply dismiss the expectations. And for our English learners, to dismiss means to order or allow someone to leave. You are allowing the harsh standards to leave the room.
To cement this practice, the source material ends with a final, deeply soothing affirmation. This is kind of the ultimate translation of the inner critic into the inner ally.
I want you listening to imagine these words delivered as a low-pass, filtered, velvety lo-fi track designed entirely for your soul's comfort. Just let these English words wash over you.
Tonight, I dismiss the judge in my mind. I am rewriting my stories with love. I forgive my flaws, I embrace my effort, and I translate every harsh thought into a gentle good night. I am safe, I am loved, and my heart is at peace.
I translate every harsh thought into a gentle good night. That is really the ultimate goal of our mission today. Remember, you listening right now, you are already highly capable of extending incredible grace, patience, and forgiveness to your friends, your family, and even complete strangers.
You already possess the skill.
You really do. You simply need to redirect a fraction of that exact same grace inward.
Because it's not about learning a completely new behavior. It's really just about changing the target of your existing empathy.
As we bring this deep dive to a close, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We discussed earlier how the inner critic is formed by internalizing past childhood pressures or, the demands of society. Our caregivers pass their anxieties to us and we turn those into our inner voice.
Right.
Well, if that causality is true, then by choosing self-compassion tonight, by actively engaging in this inner armistice and utilizing this nurturing vocabulary, are we not doing something much larger than just getting a good night's sleep?
Oh, I see where you're going.
Are we actually breaking a generational cycle of harshness?
The implications of that extend far beyond your own bedroom. When you stop the internal erosion, you fundamentally alter the emotional baseline you bring to every single interaction.
By being kinder to ourselves in the dark, we inevitably become a safer, softer, more patient presence for everyone we interact with in the daylight tomorrow. The healing starts in the isolation of the dark, but it absolutely does not stay there.
It ripples outward.
It really does. So tonight, when the lights go out and the ambush tries to begin, remember, you have the vocabulary, you have the physical tools, and you have the power to change the venue.
The courtroom is closed.
The x-ray machine might be broken, and the psychological landscape might be murky, but you do not have to stand trial. Court is adjourned. Sleep well.